Hello Patriots, welcome back to another long play format video. This is where we have a more informal discussion and just talk about the issues at hand. We've got a couple things on topic for tonight. The first one I'd like to share with you, 2AC3. If you haven't heard about it, it's by keepva2a.com and it's an awesome organizational tool. The second thing that I'd like to talk about is something I found on 2AC3, which is how West Virginia has invited some cities and towns on the border areas to join West Virginia and leave Virginia as a city. How cool is that? That's interesting. We're going to have a conversation about that. We're also going to talk about just a few things that happened with the gun ban that Governor Northam has put up. A little bit of rebuttal to that from what I can find so far. We're then going to go on to some issues of law that we've seen in the legislative information system and where they have been sent to and how they've progressed along. This particularly talks about SB 240, which is the red flag law. And finally, we're going to talk about the extension of term for the governor. Not this sitting governor, but any governor from 1 term to 2. How cool is that? Okay, before we jump into the video, I just want to thank everybody that's gone over to that little PayPal link right up here and sent me a cup of coffee. You may not be able to see it, but I got this great little cup right now that my son gave me, which has some artwork on it, enjoying a cup of coffee because of you guys. I appreciate that a lot. The support's wonderful, but the easiest way to support me if you don't want to send a cup of coffee or you can't do that is to just like, subscribe, and please share this video. That helps quite a bit. Okay, so let's actually jump right into the conversation. If you come over here to keepva2a.com, if you don't know about them, I've used a lot of their screenshots in my videos to talk about the constitutional cities or the sanctuary cities. Now this map varies just a little bit from the VCDL map, but I prefer this one. I like it a lot. I think it shows up real nicely, and it's the one that's easiest for me to get to and use. Now, what really struck me was looking around through here, and I found something in just a second, which is the birth of the movement, and something on here, which was the 2AC3. But before I got to that, I was actually scrolling down. I like to read these letters to Rob, and Rob from Keep VA2A is not Rob from VA2A News. We're different Robs. So I saw that this was a shout out put right here. Man on the ground video of a 2A movement, and he just said, hey all, I want to let you know about the great YouTube channel that is covering the 2A movement here in Virginia very well, VA2A News. Rob, thank you for putting that up there. That has really helped drive drive subscribers over to the channel. It just went up today. I saw a subscriber bump. That's very important because YouTube reserves certain channel abilities into subscriber and watch time hours, and right now I don't even have enough to get a proper YouTube channel name. So you have to search for VA2A News on YouTube instead of having youtube.com/VA2A News. So this helped out a lot. I appreciate it. I was asked last night if I have a Twitter. I do have a Twitter. I don't use it very much because I didn't have one until last night and there's so many things going on. But go ahead and start following at VA2A News on Twitter. This is where I'm going to be live tweeting all the things that I go to. I've got a new setup as far as how I'm going to present to you guys the information when I'm at the city council meeting. So I want to be able to share videos and photos like this one right here when it happens. But back to Keep VA2A, if you come over here to this movement, the birth of a movement, they talk about all of these different bills and things that they've got going on as far as votes and recalls and such like that. And they got this app, but I was like, what is the app, right? So I had to look around a little bit. And then when I did, I clicked on this thing that says our 2A grassroots campaign. And when I did, it brought me to a logon sign where you get to log in and create an account. And when I created that account, I was astonished, okay? And I did create the account as VA2A News is my username and everything, so you guys will see me posting up there. But here's the coolest part. Man, when we come over here, you actually have all the different states that are down here that you'll be able to look through and see what's actually populating. So C3 is Command, Control, and Communications. So 2A, the Second Amendment, Command, Control, and Communications. What these guys have done, Keep VA2A, I think there's a Roger, a gentleman named Roger, and Rob also that is putting this together. They've created a C3 group for us to talk and communicate. I love it, and I can't wait to dig down a little bit deeper. But just on the beginning, let me show you what I did to find something cool. I just scrolled down here to Virginia. And when I got to Virginia, it had some posts. Check this out. There's all kinds of posts on the side that you can interact with. And then there are different localities. Now, they don't have a lot of independent localities. That's something that we get to put together and populate in coordination with them. So if there was someone in Virginia Beach that was going to take up coordination of the Virginia Beach or whatever, this is where it would happen. Those of you that want to make a difference, this is where it happens, right? So go over to keepva2a.com and click on the link. But for me, the first one I saw was a new West Virginia bill allows Virginia secession if gun bans pass. Now this was really cool because when I clicked on this link, it was the only link that I saw that actually had the link directly to the West Virginia legislator bill about this. So I've heard about this earlier today, but then I clicked on it. Now I gotta spend some time to talk to you guys about this. This is awesome. And let's remember, how did West Virginia get its start? It rolled out, it kicked rocks on Virginia. So this is West Virginia that already has experience kicking rocks on Virginia back in the 1860s, 1862, 1863, and says, hey, we did it, come and join us. Now this is mainly for border towns and border cities and stuff like that, but it works. We're going to talk about that, but we will also see that this is not a new idea. Southern Virginia or southwestern Virginia or Western Virginia has been considering leaving Virginia, or at least the idea has been thrown around in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way for a while. And if you search that, you'll actually find it. Now, I just brought this up because here West Virginia wants Frederick County to switch states, and here's how it would rank if it did. So this one is actually more of a tongue-in-cheek article that talks about what would happen and the monies that Frederick produces. Frederick is a big producer for Virginia as far as taxes and industry that they have there, and so leaving would be an economic boon for West Virginia. But here's what we want to read. Let's get into it. Providing for an election to be had pending approval of the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Virginia and a majority of the qualified citizens voting among the proposition prior to August 1, 2020 for the admission of certain counties and independent cities of the Commonwealth of Virginia to be admitted to the state of West Virginia as constituent counties under the provision of Article 4, Section 11 of the Constitution of West Virginia. We're going to get that into a second, but we've got Article 4 in our own Virginia Constitution, and that's the legislature. Section 11 is enactment of laws, but for us, it's actually Section 14, powers of the General Assembly, limitations. Section 11, enactment of laws. They're very similar, so this is where you would go in order to see how Virginia would have the power to do it. So that's what they're saying. In West Virginia, that's where they got the power, and I used that in order to find out for, of course, Virginia, Article 4 of the Constitution, the legislature. But they're saying that, hey, this is how it happened. As long as the General Assembly approved of it, right, and as well as a majority of the qualified citizens, like on a voting referendum or a ballot, approved of it, right, then this could actually happen. Let's look at keepva2a.com for just a second. I mean, just let's look. 96% of the counties want Second Amendment sanctuary status. 14 cities and 20 towns. That's over 126, 128 of our cities, counties, and independent cities, counties, and towns that want these regulations proposed by Richmond to be null and void. They don't want them. That's plenty of people. Your representatives from the House of Delegates and your senators that are in these areas, they've got enough people to be forced to bring this to a vote if there was a courageous group of delegates and senators that would actually bring this up. And then we know there's the population of these areas already which would vote on a referendum or a special election to have their will done. This should scare the governor, because this could actually happen. It's so important that this could actually happen. It's just like when the governor didn't address comments by the National Guard. I know Justin Fairfax, when I was there with his interview on Capitol Hill on the 13th, when people questioned him about the use of the National Guard and who said it and everything else, he refused to comment on that. He only said that he was against it. You see, these are real concerns. They don't want any attention brought on the light of things that could possibly happen, right? Now, this is not a video about the National Guard rolling in on people. My point that I'm making is they're keeping it so quiet, they don't want us to know. Yeah, sure, you got this, that, or the other. We can talk about it all day. Senate bill this, House bill that, resolution this. Sure, they can do it all the time because it doesn't bother them. It doesn't scare them. This is a modern day secession from Virginia to West Virginia scares them. So it's shh. Because people could do it. We've got the votes. There are people that could do it. Our representatives in Keep Va2A right here, it shows us green. We're already ready to do it. But more importantly, when you go back to the reasons why West Virginia is proposing that. They're saying that whereas the legislature of West Virginia finds that in 1863, they're getting ready to tell us what they did in 1863 and why that's relevant to today. The legislature of West Virginia finds that in 1863, due to long-standing perceived attitudes of neglect for the interest of the citizens of Western Virginia, and a studied failure to address the differences which had grown between the counties of Western Virginia and the government at Richmond, the Commonwealth of Virginia was irrevocably derived, and the new state of West Virginia was formed. So they're saying that, hey, the reason they left and the reasons they cited for leaving, just like reasons given in the Declaration of Independence, we're doing this because, and this is why we're doing it. Hey, they're saying here, this is why we did it. The peoples had grown so different. The authority and legislative power at Richmond had grown so depraved to the southern and rural Virginians that they weren't the same people anymore. They were ignoring them. So they left. That's what they're saying. And whereas such a division occurred as the trans-Allegheny portions of Virginia perceived that they suffered under inadequate or inequitable measures of taxation by which they bore disproportionate share of the tax burden. Okay, the trans-Allegheny is a part of the mountains. It's an area, right? So across the Allegheny, right, across the mountains, past the Piedmont. They're saying that the people past the Piedmont in the mountains didn't have any say in the taxation, but were bearing an undue burden. An undue burden. Interesting that why this article by WUSA 9 talks about Frederick County and how it would rank. If you read this article, you'll find that it's talking about how much money Frederick County makes and how much money it sends to Richmond and how little Richmond is listening to the votes. Now, like I said, this article is tongue-in-cheek. They even say that they don't think that this should happen, but it does make you wonder. Whereas that there's a perception which is further compounded that the effects in the scheme of representation by which the trans-Allegheny Virginia was not allowed to have the proper and equitable share of representation in the government of Richmond. They just weren't being heard, like we talked about. And whereas this agreement arguably resulted in the tax dollars of the trans-Allegheny Virginians being used to enrich Tidewater, the Richmond, Hampton Roads Tidewater area, through the internal improvements which did not benefit the people of Western Virginia, that the people of the trans-Allegheny had little or no say in how their tax dollars were being allocated. They're building the case about how they did it, okay? And whereas this course led to irreconcilable division, subsequent formation of West Virginia, and yet the long-standing peaceful cooperation between the state and the Commonwealth of Virginia is a sign that such separation, undertaking even the most challenging and onerous of circumstances, can, with this passage of time, yield lasting results which are beneficial to both sides. So they're saying here, hey, they seceded and the wounds healed, and Western Virginia becoming West Virginia was good for both peoples, right? And whereas particularly many citizens of the South Side, the Shenandoah Valley, southwestern Virginia, and the Piedmont contended that an inequitable measure of taxation exists by which they bear a disproportionate share of the present tax burden on the Commonwealth, and whereas the people of the South Side, those areas, and the Piedmont do not have the proper share of representation. So they've talked about everything in the past and why Western Virginia seceded Virginia and became West Virginia. And now they're identifying the counties in the trans-Allegheny area as the Shenandoah and southeastern Virginia, South Side, and the Piedmont. And they're saying that now those areas, all Virginians, but those are the border areas, that those areas aren't receiving due representation for taxation. Have we heard that battle cry anywhere before? I believe we have. There was a tea party held once for this. I love that West Virginia did this. If you can't tell that I think it's great, it's serious. They're serious. Think about that. They're serious. And then whereas in recent days these tensions have been compounded by the perception of contempt on the part of government at Richmond and the differences of certain fundamental political and social principles which prevail between the varied counties and cities of the Commonwealth. Now we're in present day. They've built their case from back in 1863 all the way up to the tensions that are rising to right now, what's happening. And whereas in the latest, most evident in this string of grievances, the government of Richmond now seeks to place intolerable restraints upon the rights guaranteed under the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution and the citizens of the Commonwealth. They said it. A state said it. they are condemning Virginia for this. They're going to go further, and I love it. Whereas the legislative body of West Virginia believes that this latest action defies the wise counsel which has come down to us in the august words of our common Virginia founders, as the government of Richmond now repudiates the counsel and the tribune of liberty, Patrick Henry, who started the Virginia Ratifying Convention in 1788, that the great object that every man be armed, everyone who is able might have a gun. Woo! They are calling Ralph Northam and these Democrats out on the carpet. They just swept it out. They're saying that no, the state constitution, the U.S. Constitution, the formation, the foundation of our civil liberties comes from the gun, and that it's wrong for Richmond to take it away. Oh, this is great. And whereas the government at Richmond now repudiates the counsel of the zealous guardian of our inherent rights, George Mason, who stated that to disarm the people is the most effectual way to enslave them. Oh, they're calling it out all the way, aren't they? So they continue. Whereas the government at Richmond now repudiates the counsel of Thomas Jefferson, who stated in his first draft of the Virginia Constitution that no free man shall ever be deterred the use of firearms. And whereas the Board of Supervisors of many Virginia counties and the councils of many Virginia cities have recognized that it's a dangerous departure from the doctrine and the founders on the part of the government at Richmond. And whereas the Board of Supervisors have passed sanctuary city resolutions in constitutional cities, and whereas the actions of the government of Richmond undertaken since the recent general election have regrettably resulted in unproductive contention and escalating a lamentable state of civic tension. And here we go. Whereas that, as has been proven in numerous instances, such as have been observed internally in more recent times with the peaceful dissolutions of Czechoslovakia, the Soviet Union, and the creation of South Sudan, or earlier in Virginia's own formation with the in Virginia's own history with the formation of Kentucky, and with the peaceful partition of neighboring peoples can occur, and is often very beneficial to both sides in the tensions and improving the tenor of discourse in the political social differences. And whereas Article 4, Section 11 of the Constitution of West Virginia explicitly permits additional territory to be annexed. And here we have the final part. Whereas, in a spirit of conciliation, the legislature of West Virginia hereby extends an invitation to fellow Virginians who wish to do so. Join us in our noble experiment of 156 years of separation from the government of Richmond, and we extend an invitation to any constituent county or the city of the Commonwealth of Virginia to be admitted to the body politic of the state of West Virginia under the conditions set forth in our state constitution, specifically with the consent of the majority of the votes in such city, county, voting upon such proposition, and whereby convenient that their many grievances shall be addressed, and we further covenant with them that their firearms rights shall be protected to the fullest extent possible under federal and state codes, and providing that the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Virginia shall give its assent to any county or independent city that wants to do so. Guys, this is huge, okay? This is absolutely huge. So in this bill right here, this is House Concurrent Resolution 8, so it's not a bill. In this West Virginia House Concurrent Resolution 8, West Virginia is telling us in the legal law how we have to go about it. Your city or commonwealth, your city or town or county or whatever has to vote in the majority, and the resolution has to be brought up to the General Assembly and passed. That's it. Once those things happen, West Virginia will vote to bring that place, that city or whatever into its body politic. This is great. This scares Ralph Northam and the Democrats big time, because this could happen. This is not a feather fall kind of conversation, guys. This isn't something to be washed over quietly. This may very well be the tool and instrument used to either correct Richmond, right, or to secede from Virginia to a different state that protects our rights. Of course, the counties don't move anywhere, guys, but the borderline does. That could happen. This excites me. Guys, let me know what you think down below. I absolutely love this, and hope you laughed a few of my stumblings while I was reading. It gets that way sometimes, doesn't it? Here we go. Virginia governor bans guns from the Capitol ahead of rally. Northam says threats include armed militias and weaponized drones. Okay, here's the deal. I've been saying it to you guys, you that listen, there are comments down below. The intel that they've got that says there's a credible threat come from people screaming the boogaloo and that they're going to do something and that this person should be taken out or that person should be taken out. You got to stop that. That changes the course of the conversation. We saw right here that through political discourse, they already know we're armed. Let me take that tangent. Virginia knows we're armed. They don't need us prostrating it around in the streets and talking big. There are no bullets flying. Quiet down with that mess. We've already created so much political pressure through this green map that we've created large allies. We've got people like Tim Anderson. Stop giving him a hard time. He's working for us with the law like this. We need to be there to protest. There's not 100,000 Tim Andersons. There are 100,000 of us. We make this happen through political pressure, and then it's people like Tim Anderson that actually get it done because he's the person that can represent us in law, in the courts. But it's because of that boogaloo talk that you loose-mouthed people out there send. It's okay to be upset, but when you start making threats online, they're watching. Shut up, okay? I don't talk about that online because it's not something to talk about, and you shouldn't either. But because of that, guess what? Now he's got all the ammunition he needs. Loose-lipped sink ships, you wanted to be armed, you wanted to be able to carry your firearm during lobby day, great. We've been able to do it for all the years past, not now, but maybe. So I went over to the VCDL's webpage. I was hoping to find some information, and I don't. I don't and I have not looked at the emergency powers that the Virginia governor has, okay? But he does have emergency powers. And it's likely that these will be credible because there are probably enough of the boogaloo, screaming, torch-toting guys out there that want to talk about taking somebody out that have screwed us on this because he gave them the ammunition to do exactly what it was. Disarm us for our most public 2A event ever, all because you want to yell and scream at me in the comments and tell me I'm a coward when I tell you to shut up about what you're going to do to somebody. You're not going to do it to anybody because you're behind a keyboard, right? Gosh, it gets me upset because now we got to deal with this. So Brendan Mooney, an executive member with the VCDL, he does a lot of organization down here in Hampton Roads. He put out that the legal team is aware of this and they're looking for ways to get around it. The governor may not have the power to do this as it sets, but it's last minute, and I'm recording this. As of right now, do not bring your firearms to Capitol Square. That doesn't mean don't bring them to Richmond. It means don't bring them to Capitol Square, okay? If you go to anywhere where people will be lobbying in the Capitol grounds, walking on that little grassy knoll where you saw me all over the place on January 13th, that will be illegal. You won't be able to have your guns there. It's a temporary ban. Okay, you've heard it. VCDL is looking into it, but as of right now, I've got no updates. I would really like to see something updated here so we could actually get to that kind of stuff because it's hard for me to get to all these things. But while we're here, don't forget about the bus schedule. So those that are going to Lobby Day, you can get all your great information right there. Okay, I think we already talked about that on Portsmouth, so that's great. Let's move over to this. Okay, so I've pulled up. We're moving to our last segment, and I hope that it doesn't take too long. I'm going to try to get through this pretty quickly. The calendar floor action. There's a couple of things that has to happen. You've got a bill or a resolution or something. It goes to a committee in order to determine whether or not it's float worthy. Once it comes back, it goes to conference, then it goes to unfinished business, then it goes to readings. Third, second, first reading. And on the first reading, the bill is read on the floor. On the second reading, there are some additional things that happen specifically about amendments or about the verbiage of the bill. And the third reading is about the bill itself. And on the third reading, special things happen. That's when it could go to a vote later on. What's important about all of this is how things are incorporated into it and engorged. When bills are engorged or they're brought together, or engrossed, excuse me, then whatever substitutions or additions are brought together is one thing. And that's important because we're going to talk about this. SB 240, firearms removal, the extreme risk protection. It is passed by for the day. A substitute was printed because there were some additions or changes. No vote today. It was passed by. But it did have a reading on the floor. It was brought up on the floor. It did come out of the Judiciary Subcommittee with a 9-5 partisan vote. Democrats say it's great. Republicans say it's not great. And that judiciary vote is the legality of it. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next one, which is Senate Bill 69. That's the limitation of handgun purchases. Remember, this bill is about making one purchase of a handgun a month, unless you're a CWP holder, have a special permit issued by the state police, things along those lines. It showed up today on the 15th. It was engrossed by the Senate committee, and this means that there were some additions to it, so it got the SB 69 S1. That's why we looked at the rules a little bit earlier just to see. And it had a constitutional reading on the 14th, which passed 39 yes to 0 no's. I don't know what the makeup of this is as far as the body, but I'd have to look and see. I wonder if there are any Republicans in there, if there aren't. I just don't know. Anyway, it incorporated Senate Bill 22 into it. Okay, so it became one bill, this SB 69, and then it has already had a second reading. That's important to know. It's got a third reading before it will then move on to a vote. The firearm transfers, this is SB 12. It's also your universal background checks. This one has been incorporated by the judiciary for Senate Bill 70. That just means that these two bills will move on together. Okay, so let's look at Senate Bill 70 since it's been incorporated. And that's the same title, but as incorporated 22 into it. It looks like the title was replaced with a new title and it was engrossed and it was read a second time. So this is moving along too. So this is getting ready to become passed by the Senate, which would then need to be passed in the House. The governor's term of office. This is Senate Joint Resolution 6. This is important. The governor of Virginia is only allowed to spend one term, one time as the governor. That's it. You can't spend, especially consecutively. It's a one-term kind of deal. This bill allows any governor elected in or after 2025 to be able to succeed himself. Or he can serve again, like the President of the United States has 2 terms. No, we do not need Ralph Northam running again. Sure, we'd like to have some great Republicans that could get in there and serve a couple times, or some great libertarians or constitutionalists that could, but no. This right here, the one-term limit for Virginia governors, is a very important part of our Constitution that keeps control from being settled. You'd have to have another Democrat run, and they will not win against a Republican candidate this year. That just won't happen. If Ralph Northam could run, it may happen because he's got an established base. You know, there are people that like him out there. I didn't say me, but there are people that like him in Fairfax and all that other stuff that would vote for him. So it'd be a strong fight to run against an incumbent. In fact, the incumbents usually win. Incumbents generally win. And I don't know what the percentage is, but no, we don't want that. That's the point. So here we go. It has been referred to the Committee of Privileges and Elections. They're going to come back and say that it's cool. This is going to get passed through, but let's hope that it gets voted down, right? That would be great. Guys, this has been a long one. Whew. Man, it got me up in arms, made me feel froggy, got me patriotic reading the words that West Virginia said about Virginia and inviting us over there. I really, really like that. So I'm going to leave you on that. I'd like to hear your comments and everything down below. Literally, there are hundreds of comments on the YouTube page. I can't even get to them all on the Va2A page. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you'd like to hit up with a little coffee, you're welcome to do that. Guys, I'm Robert Ham. I will be with you guys January 20th, Lobby Day. That's the next time I'll see everybody. And I've got a lot of videos to produce between now and then. But I'm here and I'm reporting on your rights. And I want to thank you for watching.